Hello, welcome to the Comic Coach podcast with me, Stroud. I'm already chuckling because I am already, as ever, chatting away to my fabulous guest this week. And we've already had a giggle about cheese and dogs. That's all you need to know, kids. That's all you need to know. So welcome, lovely, lovely, fabulous Karen. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Hello. Good to be here. Yeah. Good to be
It's
here.
delicious to have you here. It's delicious. Now, so all of my regular viewers and listeners, because I have viewers and listeners now, because this goes up on YouTube, they always like to know, they always get annoyed if I don't ask, where in the world are you today?
So just outside Glossop, which for people that don't know is on the edge of the Peak District, about half an hour east of Manchester. You can probably tell though, that's not where I'm from originally. I've got a slightly twang from the northeast, so I'm from Newcastle originally. I ended up here by accident, as you do.
Yes. And the Peak District is magnificent. And obviously, as regularly as will know, I am also a Newcastle United fan. So obviously, when we met, we were obviously going to bond. I mean, we won, right?
Okay, a chance. Look what I've got. My team.
It's like she's proud it. So yes, if you're listening, she is showing very, very proudly the fact that our beloved Newcastle United won our first trophy for over 70 years, unless you include one that we won 55 years ago, which is also. So as Newcastle fans, we're both very happy. Is that fair?
Absolutely. And it was just sheer chance I happened to have this. So
I mean, it's an awesome thing. And, I do actually also have the, not the one that says winners on it, but I also do have the training kit, which I think was what I recorded the last podcast in. So it's, Anyhow, this is not the Newcastle United podcast. There are many good ones. In fact, I was listening to one of them earlier today, after our good winner for one. But I'm going to just drop the football geekiness because I am quite geeky when it comes down to football. Now, Karen, as you know, so lovely listeners of the Comic Coach podcast, Karen and I met because Karen was speaking at a conference and I loved her. And I was like, she's going to come on the podcast because she's awesome. And she very kindly agreed that she would. And Karen, as you know, I like to ask all of my fabulous guests all around impact, who's impacted and things like that. I have 6 questions. Are you ready?
I am. I'm raring to go.
I mean, I love that. She did a, sort of head roll, getting herself physically and mentally prepared for where is Em going to take me on this journey? We just don't know. I mean, we do because she leaves the questions in advance, but she's fine. Okay, question number 1. I'm very much enjoying my chat with you already. Who has had the greatest impact on your life?
Well, not so much one person as the fact that I come from a family of very strong, self-sufficient women who were always the really predominant characters, very northeast, very direct, no holds barred, give you the feedback between the eyes as it comes, but that taught me to be independent and self-sufficient and hold my own and have a career myself. My great aunts both worked,
Right.
various different things. And it was just lovely to see, actually. And still to, this day, all of the women in my family have successful careers and, have forged their own way as well. So I love to see that. So that's probably the greatest impact on me, is just that family value set and the women in my family.
I love that. And I think it's so important, I mean, there's a whole load of things, isn't there? You can't be it unless you see it. And there's all of these things, and obviously we're living in a world where diversity is being questioned and all of the values and everything else like that. But everybody that I talk to on the pod, when they talk about who impacts them, it's always somebody that has demonstrated that you can do this. And I think you're right. And I think, especially, great aunts. So you're going, that's 2 generations above you and I, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't necessarily the norm that 2 generations above us, women were working.
No.
And so massive kudos to them, because they probably just cracked on and got on with it and didn't think about it. But in a strange way, it's like they were trailblazers, right?
Absolutely. And they went to be nurses. They were both born in, one was 14 and one was 16, 1914 and 1916. So lived through both wars and went to be nurses in London as well. And they had an older sister as well who did. My granddad was their younger brother, their baby brother.
Right.
And they looked after him at the same time as well. But absolutely, just sort of set that path of having a career and going out to do something and continuing it, not just doing it during the war.
Yeah, and that's a really fair shout, isn't it? Because quite a lot of women did go to work, and then when men came back, suddenly it was like, oh no, you shouldn't be working. So there was that little bit of, but it's famous, to bring it back to the football thing. You know, women were playing football, massively successful, and then it got banned because it was too successful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who knew? Who knew? Well, I'm loving your great aunts, loving them, and well done them, because then that's helped make you. So well done all of them. Well done everybody. It's very depth. Question number 2. So what keeps you motivated in what you do?
Oh, wow. So many different things. I'm really, really fortunate. I've made some big decisions with careers, you know, from big PLC into working for the cooperative, which I did for 7 years because it was a different way of doing business, member led, putting money back into the communities, trustee, you know, and doing a non-exec role for the NHS as well, and ended up in the third sector, which is what I do now. So my biggest thing is about giving, being able to add value and give back somewhere along the line. And that continues in what I do. I volunteer at a local dog field. I go and do all the good jobs while the dogs get an hour of running around having fun. My 2 Labradors keep me motivated because they're brilliant. They are just always here when you want them there. You know, knowing that I've got a partner that's very supportive, but also that I work in such a fabulous environment. And, you know, as part of my job, I can, you know, I can be out in some of the most beautiful parts of our network. You know, one day I can be, you know, we do board visits where we have canal trips, or we go on the boat lift, or, you know, we just get to see such fabulous things and meet some of our quite fabulous colleagues. But on top of it, also are even more, not that they're more than the colleagues, but the fact that they do it for free. Our 5,000 volunteers, you know, what they give, they just come and gladly do it for nothing. So seeing that is brilliant. The outdoor spaces keeps me motivated. Why I picked the Peak District? Well, I come from Northumberland, which is full of hills. I can't have the sea, but there's lots of reservoirs and things around me. So I need water and hills and, you know, that fresh air and so lots of things that motivate me.
And it's so interesting as well. Yeah. And because, you know, because all that's, because all of that, you know, is all about, you know, when you hear that sort of path and you've worked in lots of different worlds, right? And let's face it, the corporate world is different to the third sector, which is different to the third world, which is different to charities, it's different to the NHS. However, there's a thread, isn't there? There's a thread of you consistently wanting to add value and give back and hold and help awesome people realize how awesome they are. And I think it's so interesting, isn't it? Because you also volunteer, you understand that ethos behind volunteering. And that, I mean, that is the archetypal thing of how do we give back? We give our time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know.
And
so I'm not surprised you're motivated.
Yeah, supporting other people as well. You know, there's nothing, and it's not, you know, about self-praise or anything. It's just about being able, recognizing that you can help somebody else sometimes as well with some advice, some guidance, some coaching, pointing them in the right direction. It takes nothing for me to do that, and yet can mean so much to somebody.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Especially, you know, you've done very well in your career and everything. And sometimes it's that thing of that 10-minute little conversation can help shift something and shift somebody in a way that you don't even realize quite often. And then it's those little, when you get that, it's like when you get a little email. So I did a keynote last Thursday. Yeah, Thursday. And I got a message from somebody and she said, oh, I saw you speak a year ago, Em. So this was an event that I was in the track, and then this time I was invited back to be the closing keynote. And she said, and one of the things that you said changed my life. And I, you know, obviously I'm speaking to hundreds of people, and you just go, well, that's the reason why I'm going to get up and go and do it again. You know, it's those little moments, isn't it? You know?
Yeah. Yes, we don't always realize our own impact sometimes.
Right? Oh, my word. I mean, it's so often I think we go and we're doing things and we just assume that it's, well, this is just what I do. And actually, it is just sometimes taking the breath. And I think that's one of the reasons that I wanted to do the pod all around impact, because quite often we don't even acknowledge it. You know, we're like, oh, that's what we do. You know, it's question number 3. Brilliant.
Yeah.
How do you play?
Oh, a little bit of what I've already said, you know, being outside, taking my dogs out, you know, particularly to the beach when I managed to, you know, it's a bit further away from the beach where I am now, but every time I visit the Northeast with the dogs, we go to the beach still. I have some favorites, as you can imagine, all the quieter ones, but brilliant to do that. When you learn every day, I love learning new things and trying new things, and I'm very lucky. I moved here without knowing anybody, which I'll come to again. And I've built up a bit of a network of friends and part of a community. And, we do new things to go and try as well. We did a bit of dry stone walling. That was fabulous.
Awesome.
We arranged a disco for a local charity, and that was great fun arranging it and having the disco, and the fact that we raised money in the meantime for a women's refuge charity was fabulous. But I'm a real advocate of anything quite mindful. I've done yoga for many, many years, and I love Pilates with that as well. I go off to do retreats, that being outdoors, but as I've said, swimming gives me time to stop and think as well. But being with family and friends and doing different bits, and obviously my other half, which I shouldn't forget him either.
Throw them in as well. You're right,
I'll
but
throw him in the mix. Yeah.
Throw them in the mix. You're so right. It is, and for me, quite often people say, but what is play? And I think lots of adults get play. That must mean only games, or play is what kids do. And for me, as regular listeners will know, I've identified that there's 12 ways that adults play. It's going to be in my second book. It's published next year. Have to keep saying that because then it will get published next year. Or rather, I'll finish writing it for next year.
Yes, you will. Yeah.
I thank you very much. This is why Karen's so good at motivating people. I will. Karen has said I will. Yeah. But it's that thing of, for me, play is any activity where you are completely present and it brings you joy. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're good at it, because you don't necessarily have to be good, and that's part of it. I know loads of people that are hobbyist artists, for example, and I'm like, that's brilliant. As long as it brings you joy, no one cares. Not expect to be the next Van Gogh or something. Yeah. So yeah, I love that idea of you being very mindful and conscious. And I think because of the role you have and how many people you hold, and if you're anything like me, that time where it's all, okay, I'm swimming, I'm doing yoga, that then helps us reboot, right?
It's also a bit of a community as well, which I think is really interesting, because when I moved here, it was through a yoga workshop that I met people that then connected me with other people and different communities, and it just expands.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's that thing, isn't it? And I think quite often people say, how do you get to know people? I'm like, go try something new. Yeah. Just go and try something, because if you try brave, just be brave, kids. You heard it here first. That's going to be one of the things. What was the highlight? Just be brave, kids. Brave.
Yeah.
Just be brave, lovely people. Question number 4. What's one action that's really impacted you in your life?
Interestingly, a few times when I've had some tough times, I've gone all in and thrown it all up in the air and changed everything at the same time. So, I remember when I split up with my ex-husband and I moved, changed jobs, moved to a place I didn't know anybody, but I made it, and it really helped me from a career point of view, and it made me be a stronger person as a result of it. And a little bit, when I moved here, nearly be 5.5 years ago, I knew nobody. I just knew that I was living here more than I was living at home in the Northeast because of work. And it was bonkers. And I found a house I really liked. And I thought, just all in, I'm going to, go for it. And I did. And I've met some fabulous friends. I've got a great community, and I met my partner as well as a result. So, sometimes things just happen for a reason, but you have to take that leap of faith first.
And that, it links back to that whole bravery piece, doesn't it? Because to shift, especially when you're in a massive place of transition and change, end of relationship, new job, different location. It's that thing of going, hi, still going to be me. I'm going to show up, and taking that leap. And I think it's really easy to underestimate, but I think it's also really easy to overestimate. And I think people overthink stuff. It's like, but if I do that and they go straight into worst case scenario, And I think you and I, reason why we're on the podcast is because it's that thing, right? Where it's like, just go and do it. Like genuinely, because the worst case scenario, which didn't happen to you, would have been, oh, I'm not very happy here. I don't like this house. So I'll move back home. But actually what you got is not only a new partner, new group of friends, new social life, all of that stuff, cracking job. It's like, whoop, whoop. Yeah.
I know. And, things like even this job, when I first moved here, I was going to volunteer at the Canal and River Trust.
Okay.
I was still working at the co-op then.
Okay.
But then COVID came and it didn't happen because it all stopped. And then, then later on when I was looking to leave the co-op, the job came up and I thought, that's my job. So things just they just happen, don't they? They fall into place. Yeah.
Yeah. As long as you're putting energy out, and it doesn't matter what it is. It could be a tiny step. It doesn't have to be massive and big like you're saying, but it's as long as you're consciously putting some energy into something, it is amazing what the world will give back to you. Oh, I love it. I love it. So with all of these many different roles and, your job and life and everything, how do you take care of you?
I'm a real advocate for well-being generally. I think there's so much to it. I started doing mindfulness with a friend of mine who I'd worked with years ago, and she'd trained and she was a coach, and she started doing mindfulness during lockdown. And, that combined with people that continued doing yoga online during lockdown. So you had some connections and you could still take that, take everything that you get from it. Yoga for me is very grounding because you have to focus on you, and it's inward and outward focus. So I find that very, calming. And at the worst times, when you have those moments, just doing a little bit of yoga sometimes brings me back. The mindfulness does, because if you focus, the biggest piece of advice I could give to everybody is focus on your breath, because actually you can't help but be mindful suddenly. You're meditating by accident, if nothing else, because you count 10 breaths. You find yourself, you can only do that. You can't be in your head and worrying about anything else. Simple things, time with my partner, sitting, having those silly conversations that you have that go off on tangents, Googling something because you said, what was that again? And you have to look it up, and, being able to just sit and enjoy a good book as well, I think is a luxury that we don't have enough time for these days. Those things are great for me, the swimming and the walking and that, but I'm just very conscious of it, and I try to encourage it in other people as well.
I love it. I love it. And I think it's really interesting actually. Over the last little while, I've been jumping on the tube a bit more. And if there's something I've really noticed that's really changed in the last, I want to say 6 months, there are so many more people reading books.
Yeah.
So many more people have, myself included, I'm like, bring in a book. Because as much as these things, I'm showing my phone in case you're not watching this. And yes, it is a flip phone, kids, and it's a cool phone. But as much as I like it, I actually know the damage that it's doing to me. And if I'm always on it, etc. Whereas that thing of sitting and reading a book, and I think loads of people, when they're on holidays, like, that's when I read. And I'm like, why do we only read when we're on holiday? Should read it other times, So I am there with you. I'm there with you. And final question. What have you really been thinking about the last couple of days? What's been in Karen's mind as we're recording this, heading towards Easter? What's been going on in your brain?
Oh, many things. I've actually made a big leap, and instead of renting my house out in Northumberland, it's now sold. So I've been thinking about that happening, and what I can then do, which gives me a bit more flexibility and freedom financially, which is always good. Thinking about the decking at the side of my house that my other half is rebuilding. He's a cabinet maker by trade, so he's very particular. And the fact that it's going to make a nice new addition, because it's been a part of the garden that I've ignored since I moved in because it was lethal. Little things like that, just funny little things that pop in my head. Looking forward to going to Devon at the end of May with my mum and my sister, and 3,
Oh, amazing.
my 2 Labradors and their 1 Labrador. So
amazing.
yeah.
Amazing. And I think, isn't it so, this is why it's why I love that question, because I think quite often people are like, oh, she's got a big job and she's doing all these things. And it's like, no, absolutely every single one of us is like, some decking outside that I'm thinking about. It's been lethal. Going to carry on thinking about that. Got a holiday. That's good. Oh, and I sold a house. And so, I've been dealing with all of that, which I think is, it's just such a, that's what we are as human beings, right? We have all these different facets to us, everything else like that. So I could talk to you for hours, but I'm aware of your time, of course, my good listeners' time. And if people wanted to find out about the work that your organisation does, because obviously you do rely on a lot of volunteers and obviously people fundraising and everything else like that, how do people find out about your fab organisation?
Well, first of all, you can link in with me if you want. We're on LinkedIn, we're on Twitter, we're on, or X as it is now, I must call it X, I must get with the program. We're going to start doing TikToks. We have a website. Our website is a vast plethora of information available, jobs, volunteering opportunities. But, more than happy, anybody that really wants to do something, just reach out, because we take anything that we can have some help with. It's such a fabulous organisation. So
and I mean, when we met, I think the main thing, when you think about canals and rivers and stuff and waterways, and my brain, I was like, huh? And, like you said to me, you have such a diverse amount of different skills, different people, because when you think about it, there's all the canals that we walk around that are lovely. And then there's rivers, and you've got so many. So honestly, I will make sure that all of those links are on the show notes, because, so much of what you do also, we all take for granted because we just go walking along it. And actually, it's down to your awesomeness and all the people that you work with and all the volunteers that mean that we can go walking along canals and everything else like that. Yeah. So, if you have any interest with anything to do with waters, boats, etc., then go on and have a little look and see if you can help. And then obviously, if you want more specific stuff, then chat to Karen. Karen, thank you. I'm clapping you. I don't always clap, but I'm clapping. Thank you so much for coming on the Comic Coach podcast with me and Stroud. I knew it was going to be a joy because you're very joyful. And it has been. So thank you ever so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
The lovely Karen. She is so, the reason I paused slightly as I was saying that was she's so multifaceted, that woman. She's kind of like the archetypal woman who has done some unbelievably cool stuff, who just cracks on. And now hearing about her great aunts, it makes perfect sense, doesn't she? She's got a very big job now. She's head of HR and people. Apologies, Karen, that I haven't got your job title completely right, of what is a very large charity within the UK. Plus, she's worked at co-op, she worked at PLC, she sat on boards and things. Isn't it fascinating how it was her great aunts and all the women that had shown her that she could go off and have a career? And I think it is that northern. I think for those of you that aren't in the UK, I think the folk up north are, well, they're generally friendly, apart from when you go to Essex, which is where I've just been, and actually people in Essex are super friendly. And I am a southerner, so I can say this. There's a thing about northerners where I think it's just a little bit more, just crack on, don't we? Just get on. And I've got family up north, and they are far more like, yeah, just get on. And when she talks about, impacting people and helping people and giving back, I know that she does that in spades, but she feels no need to sort of almost shout about it, and there's a quite understatedness, if that's a word, about Karen. And that was one of the reasons that I wanted her to come on the podcast. The work they're doing is extraordinary. Genuinely, if you like water in the UK, you will have been impacted by their charity. And, they deeply care and they deeply look after their volunteers and their staff and their teams and things. And actually that's headed up by her, and hearing how she looks after herself, that consciousness of mindfulness, that consciousness of looking after her well-being, then does enable her to look after others. So with that, I want to leave you with this question. Are you looking after you in order for you to look after others? And if you're not, maybe it's time that you take a breath and you start looking after you. Because if you don't look after you, how can you possibly help others to the fullest and the best of your own beautiful ability? So there you go. Another episode of the Comic Coach podcast with me and Stroud. I am indeed the Comic Coach, which is why it's called the Comic Coach podcast. It's called the Comic Coach Podcast because I am indeed the comic coach, and see, second time I got it right. But you know what? I'll keep it in because I'm imperfect, as we all are. Hope you're all fabulous. Hope you're all really good. Look after yourself. Be kind to yourself. Make sure that you do find some time to laugh and think and play. Haven't said that for a while, but do make sure you laugh and think about yourself with kindness and play because you know it helps you feel better. And I look forward to joining you on the next podcast. I've got some awesome people coming. Thanks for listening, watching, and we'll catch up very soon. Take good care. Bye for now.